We get our first full moon in Aries since March of 2023 this week. That hasn't been an eclipse. So let's talk about all the pent-up energy you may have been holding in and transmuting and transforming through with all these eclipses for the past like almost 2 years that you may be finally ready to actualize and release during this full moon. I'm going to show you a chart and we'll talk about some of the energies you might be feeling, some of the astrology that's going on. We'll go through the chart and piece it apart like that. And then we'll also talk about how we can actually use this energy in sort of a folk magic or intentional way to make the most of the energy of this full moon. Okay, so here we have the chart of this full moon as it's happening roughly around Washington, D.C. It's not going to change too much from there. This full moon is actually happening at sunrise. You can see the sun is at 24 degrees, exactly opposite the moon. We can actually make this even easier to see. The sun is at 24 degrees, exactly opposite the moon, and with the ascendant. So we have sunrise occurring here for this full moon, where the opposition actually makes it a full moon in Aries. Now, again, the last couple times we had a full moon in Aries, this was a situation of eclipses, because as you can see, let me see if I can make this even easier. We've got the North and South node in Aries and in Libra. So there's the North node in Aries. And they are, as you can see here with the red, they're moving backwards. That's kind of how they roll. So these nodes are moving backwards. They started out where the moon is now. This is why it is not currently an eclipse, because the moon and the sun are actually so far away from the nodes that their declination, which the nodes indicate, is not enough for them to actually be blocked out by the earth between them. So this is not a lunar eclipse. Thank goodness, right? We had one of those already. It was the first one in Pisces, because what happened there was while that we had that full moon in Pisces, it was close enough to the node for it to be an eclipse. So what the node is showing us is how level with the earth are the sun and the moon, and is that level enough for the earth to block out the moon in the case of a lunar eclipse, or for the moon to block out the sun in the case of a solar eclipse? That's what we're experiencing here. Another really interesting thing to point out about this lunation, this full moon in Aries, and the one that follows it, which will be the new moon in Scorpio, is that they are both ruled by Mars. This is kind of a unique thing where both lunations are ruled by the same planet. And currently, so we want to look at how's the manager of the store feeling today. And so we have Mars in a prominent position in the chart. Mars is up here on the midheaven near the M. So Mars would prefer not to be in Cancer. This is because Mars's favorite sign to be in, one of them anyway. Mars, of course, loves to be in Aries, rules Aries, loves to be in Scorpio, rules Scorpio, and is exalted or celebrated when Mars is in Capricorn. And so being in the sign that is opposite of Mars's exaltation, Capricorn, which is Cancer, now that Mars is in Cancer, Mars is in fall. This is like Mars not going viral. If Mars were in Capricorn, everyone would be listening to Mars. They'd be celebrating that Mars has arrived in Cancer. Nobody knows Mars's name. It's sort of Mars who. And so Mars does not have resources that Mars would have of being in their own house. And also Mars does not have anybody that knows them or celebrates them or anything like that. It's a fall situation. They have fallen from grace. And so this is going to affect what Mars can accomplish on Mars's agenda. So if Mars is like, I do these things according to Mars's nature, which is ambitious, inspiring, can be very creative, can be a little bit combative and conflicting, can really bring energy of action to a situation. If Mars is in that sort of energy, and that's what Mars wants to do, Mars doesn't have the way to do it in the most fluid or easy of ways. So what we're seeing here is Mars not really able to function very well. Mars's internet is shoddy and they can't get on the Zoom call to really give the orders for how things should go for this full moon. On top of that, we're seeing that Mars is at 22 degrees, and thank goodness Mars actually does move slower than both the sun and the moon through the sky, because what we're seeing here is Mars at 22 degrees and this lunation, the sun and the moon, both being at 24 degrees. So they have just had a square with Mars. The moon within the last few hours, the sun within the last few days had this square with Mars, this Mars natured aspect with Mars himself. This brings conflict upon conflict with a Mars that really can't function in its highest and best interests, so to speak. So what I'm seeing with this full moon is normally we'd be ambitious, we'd be going for it, we'd be taking things in stride and just saying, hey, I've got new ideas, I'm implementing them. thought to action, no filter. And so that may still be happening, and we want to be conscious of that. But one of the things that we can use that in a positive way for is purging stuff that we don't need anymore. It is a full moon. The moon is now full of light and getting ready to release all of that light, getting ready to decrease in light as the moon now moves to be a new moon, also in a Mars sign. So it's that idea where the idea of releasing during a full moon comes from. The moon is about to release all the light, and so we release the energy along with her. And so, since we haven't had a full moon in Aries in the last almost 2 years, since Mars is not in Mars's best position right now, this is a great time to be witnessing hard feelings or witnessing things that are coming up where we don't feel included. Thinking about Mars and Cancer, Cancer is a cardinal and water sign. Cancer likes to be a community builder. Cancer likes to have a place and feel like they belong. And with Mars here, that's afflicting Cancer a little bit. So Mars is saying, hey, I stand out, maybe too much. Or, hey, I'm not really feeling seen by the people around me. Or, hey, where can I fit in this community? And these are questions that we can ask ourselves as well, knowing that this is the right time to be having these feelings. So if you're having difficult feelings, it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that you are really in alignment with the energy that's around you. You are picking up what is being produced and disseminated in the world. And so now you get to have this actionable moment of recognizing something that may require change to resolve. And now you get to come up with a plan for how you're going to create that change so that by the time we have this new moon in Scorpio coming up in 2 weeks from now, you will be able to say, I know what I want to do. I'm working on the internal work. Really, if we shoot forward to the Scorpio, it's probably working on actualizing and processing those internal emotions that we get from potential feelings of Mars in Cancer. Perhaps this is rejection. Perhaps this is isolation. Perhaps this is just not feeling like you belong. One of the things that Mars is attributed to sometimes in ancient texts is being that outlier, is being the one who goes against the grain. Perhaps you are going against the grain among the group you are in right now. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. That doesn't mean that who you are needs to be changed. It means that your environment may not be the best. Just like for Mars right now, the environment's not the best. So we want to take this energy and we want to say, what is not the best for me right now? And how can I purge that from my life? What feelings do I have that I do not like feeling right now? What causes them? What thoughts do they give me? And how do I want to change those thoughts, change those feelings, and then change the actions I take because of them, change the way that I am inspired to move in my life. So with that, this is a recognizing that you have more power than you might understand, and that you are someone with every choice who is making a ripple effect in your world. So with the understanding that this is an eclipse that's helping us recognize our power, my affirmation to offer you today is I recognize my own power and influence in the world. I recognize my own power and influence in the world. Let this be the spell that you use for inspiration during this releasing process, during this full moon, as a folk magic technique to really lean in to what's around you and use this energy to support you, to do something that's going to become a victory for you, as Mars will be excited for. The best way to do this is to think of a list of things that you've accomplished in the last year or so and any events that have happened as a result of them. What have you done? And what has happened from that? What ripple did you start so that you can see that effect you're having, so you can appreciate how influential you are in the areas where you are influential? They exist. And so now you can say, cool, I can see that I am influential. I can see that I have power to make decisions and do things well. Now I want to put that energy into this place where it will also have the return on the investment of that energy. And I will feel seen, I will feel included, and I will feel like I am part of something, like I am making an actionable and visible and visceral difference. So with that, I leave you to all of the power that you have, all of the inspiration and incredible energy that I know you possess. And I hope you have a wonderful full moon in Aries that illuminates so many things to you that make you feel strong and capable.